Great Girlfriends, we invite you to What Women Want 2017, June 15th through 17th in New York City, powered by Prudential. The 2017 What Women Want Conference is all about uniting women from around the world in one weekend with power talks, workshops, dance breaks, beauty and wellness tips, and authentic connectivity that will inspire you to return home ignited to create change. This year, our theme of building bridges and breaking barriers is about women creating connections first with themselves and then with others to lead an outstanding life. At What Women Want, over 200 great girlfriends will go from me to we as our programming will guide girlfriends on living a life full of purpose and power. Connect with like-minded women who stand as bridges towards higher living and meaningful relationships. Gain clarity on what they truly want to manifest in their lives and their friendships, and celebrate the power and passion that women display when we leave all of our cares behind and savor the experience. So last but not least, log on now to whatwomenwantconference.com. Again, that's whatwomenwantconference.com, and grab your tickets while they last. We'll see you there. Welcome to the Great Girlfriends podcast, where we discuss life, love, laughter, and everything in between. We're your hosts. I'm Sybil Amuti.
And I'm Brandis Daniel.
And we have a third great girlfriend with us today, Karleen Roy.
Oh my God, I'm so hyped. This is my first podcast. This is amazing. I feel like 2017 cool or something.
Oh, I love it.
I do.
We're so excited to have you.
Anticipated, right?
Yes. So this is like a year overdue.
It is. We have a lot of things that are actually overdue.
We do.
Not to put it on blast.
We
got a few things overdue.
We do.
See, you got pressure now.
It's all good. I'm ready.
I love it.
So funny story. I was at an awards luncheon. Mm-hmm. And, well, first of all, I used to go out in New York all the time, and people would say, do you know Karleen? Oh, you're from Memphis. Do you know Karleen? And Karleen was literally, like, famous in my head.
Yes.
Do you know Karleen? Do you know Karleen? And then we honored Kalana Barfield with Harlem's Fashion Road last year. Mm-hmm. And we're at a luncheon, and she goes, you're from Memphis? Oh, my God, you have to meet my friend Karleen. And I was like, I cannot tell you how many times I have heard of the famous Karleen.
That is so funny.
She said, well, I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to introduce you guys, and you have to connect.
She texted me while she was there, actually.
She did.
You know Brandon? She's from Memphis. And I was like, I've heard of Harlem Fashion Road, and I know she was from Memphis.
That's
so cool.
And so we finally got together, and that was on a Tuesday.
Yes.
And I remember the day we got together because I was parking and I was so pregnant that I almost started to cancel.
You were good and pregnant. I didn't realize that she was like pregnant like that.
I was so pregnant. And I remember being like, how am I going to walk this block and a half? I parked in the garage as close as I could get, but I was just like, she don't even know how I'm struggling just to get across the street.
Who drives in New York?
Well, you do when you're 7 months pregnant. I drove everywhere. Once I hit 7 months, I didn't ride the subway anywhere.
No, you shouldn't be.
I drove everywhere, and then that was on a Tuesday, and then I went into labor with Sky on a Saturday.
Was it that week?
Yeah.
It was that week.
Yeah, it was
a wild week.
She was like, I have a baby. I was like, what? I just saw you the other day.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So crazy.
Yes. So here we are.
So we're so excited.
Welcome to our world.
I'm very hyped.
This is the first time that we've had a Memphian that's moved to New York.
Yes.
On our podcast.
Yes.
And who's like living out the New York life to the fullest.
Yes.
Yes. Bringing all that Memphis forward. So
I love it.
I love it too.
All of it. Cornbread fed and all of it.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
All of that.
So girlfriends, what you guys don't know is that we just finished chowing down on like fried chicken, macaroni, greens, yams.
Yeah, hot plates.
Yeah.
Do not tell my trainer.
This was a long time ago. All these trainers, this was a long time ago.
Do not tell my trainer.
It's the past. But we had a full-on chow down.
Right. So, Karleen, we could do like that whole formal bio, but we don't like to do that.
Okay.
We like for you to tell people
oh my God.
who you are.
Who am I? Everybody listening, my name is Karleen Roy. I am the founder of the Vanity Group. So I'll give you the skinny. So the Vanity Group is a lifestyle agency, but pretty much what we do rock star things for rock star people. So all the crazy requests that you think that you're famous or your favorite celebrity would have, they come to our agency and we fulfill it for them. So whether they want a red carpet event in 24 hours or they are stuck on a yacht in Central Pay and they need a helicopter to get to Ricardo Tisi's birthday party in Ibiza in an hour, they call us and we make it happen for them.
Wow.
That's what I do.
I love it.
I love it.
How insane is your world?
My world is pretty insane. I never know when I'm coming or going. I never make my own personal plans in advance. Like, people are like, when you coming home for X, Y, Z? I'm like, yo, I'll buy the ticket the day of. They're like, you so famous. Why can't you get your ticket 14 days in advance? I'm like, there's so much in my world that can happen within 14 days. I never have advance notice to do anything. I'd probably be so much more great if I had time to plan and produce things. But the nature of my business, because we primarily do work with celebrities, they operate in their own world, and we work around them. So a lot of times I don't know when I'm coming or going, honestly.
Wow.
The only thing I make time to do is get my nails done. I have an appointment for that all the time. That is definitely on my schedule. But other than that, I don't know. I do not know.
I love it. So tell us how you started Memphis. Okay. And then you build out to the Vanity Group.
Oh, wow.
Give us that journey.
How much time do we have?
Girl, this is your show.
Oh, wow. Finally. Jesus. No. So, yeah, I grew up in Memphis. I'm a proud Memphian. Anybody listening from Memphis, I went to Central High School, which is the best high school in all of Memphis.
Mercy.
Yes,
Lord.
I was a cheerleader at Central. I was on a pom squad. I was very popular. So, I was like the cool girl in high school. I'm joking. But no, grew up in Memphis. My parents were very much like rooted in the community. Graduated from Central. Oh, in between time, my mom sent me to like TSU every summer, like for summer camp, different type of summer camps. So shout out to everybody that went to Tennessee State. So graduated from Central and went to the most amazing college there is in the world, Howard University.
We'll let that slide.
I'm just gonna tell you.
We'll let it slide.
If you're trying to go, if it's all about Black excellence and the legacy, and that's all what Howard is about.
Do you want me to tell you what I tell people about Howard?
What?
You guys have to see this hand on her hip moment.
Swift too.
I'm number one cheerleader for Howard.
I said if Sky is very sheltered and she needs to go somewhere where she can learn how to hustle, I will send her to Howard.
You get that hustle from Howard.
You get hustle from Howard.
Yeah, Howard, y'all know
it's true.
It's a hustle.
Everything is a hustle at Howard.
But we hustle with style. You got to style and grace. We hustle with style.
Yep.
So went to Howard, which was, I think you have key decisions that you make in your life that shape your world. And choosing to go to Howard was one of the most amazing decisions that I've ever made and life-changing. It was just really awesome to be at a school, and I think Central was like this too, where you have everybody that's like competitive and you have this great energy because everybody wants to be the best. I remember being at Central and everybody's like, I'm going to Spelman, or I'm going to FAM, or I'm going to X, Y, and Z. Like, you were always surrounded by winners. So it was great to get to Howard and everybody was like, wherever you were from, if you was a hot person from Detroit or Atlanta or Memphis or wherever you were from, you came to Howard, and it was this nucleus of Black excellence, which I thought was just so amazing and super dope. So at Howard, I'm an Alpha Chapter AKA, so shout out to all my AKAs who are listening, and that was amazing, life-changing for me too. I come from a family of AKAs and sorors. I was always around AKAs. Growing up, my mom pinned every girl on my block.
What?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so their moms weren't Greek, and they all wanted to be AKAs because of my mother. So, as a kid, I was going to pinning ceremonies and step shows and volunteering. Like, I was always around Greek life. So, like, growing up, my life was like Cosby Show in a different world. Just so I was always gonna be like in that environment. So went to Howard. While I was at Howard, and it's so crazy, I was in the Lynx Cotillion. Shout out to the Lynx out there.
Oh, love it.
I was in the Lynx Cotillion. I was home recently, and I looked in the program, and it said, Karleen Roy, she's going to Howard. She wants to be a dermatologist. At that time, Because I feel like it's central. Everybody was like, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a lawyer, all this. And I was like, I'm going to do it too. Yeah. But I knew that I always wanted to do something with like beauty or aesthetic and I was like, I'm going to be a dermatologist. Got to Howard, took biology completely. I either failed it or I dropped out. I was like, all this? You got to know how to do all this? No, thank you. It is not for me. So I was a biology major for all of like 5 minutes. And I was undecided with what I wanted to do for so long. The concept of going to college and being a 17 or 18-year-old child and someone saying, decide right now what you want to do for the rest of your life is crazy to me. It's so much pressure. It's so much pressure. And it's like, you don't know. It's like, I want to be a dermatologist. I read about it. It's cool. I want to be a doctor. But I was like, you don't know what you want to do. So anybody out there that's in college and you don't know yet, it is okay. You do not need to have all the answers right now. Good. So I was undecided my major for a long time, just like being an AKA, being on the step team and being a cheerleader. My dad was like, what are you going to major in? My dad is a business owner. He was very like, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. You go to school, you be a teacher, you be something that we know what it is. Like, you can't just be making up careers. So the fact that I'm doing this, my dad's like, this is the craziest thing he ever heard of. So I actually took a sociology class, and I was like, I love this. Like, I was into like studying the groups of people. So I was like, I'm going to be a sociology major. So I'm studying my sociology, and I didn't have a minor. They're like, ma'am, you need a minor. By the way, I was a super senior. I was in Howard for 5 years because I did not know what I wanted to do. So at Howard, I was undecided. I didn't know what I wanted to do. It was costing my parents a lot of hard-earned money. I did not have no scholarships. It was just straight daddy, just please help me pay my tuition. So studying for my major classes, I was actually at Howard at the iLab. Anybody that's at Howard, that was like the thing to do. We had like a fancy place where it was like TVs and MacBooks. It was the coolest thing that ever happened to us. So it was in the iLab, and Sex and the City was on. And I was looking at Samantha, and I said, I don't know what she does, but she's fly and she's bossy and she's about business. And my line sister was next to me. She said she's a publicist. I had never heard what a publicist is or what they do. I'm like, what? Put me on. What is that? Like, I didn't know what it was. And she's like, you have to, it's public relations. I went the next day and I was like, my minor is public relations. That's how impressionable I was. But I was like, whatever she is, like, I just gravitated to. I was like, she looked strong. She was bossy. She was very polished and put herself together. And she had a cool career, which I thought was a cool career. So after graduating from Howard, I wanted to look for a job in public relations. I knew I didn't want to be in D.C. because I didn't want to do like the political thing. My dad was like, you come back to Memphis, you go to St. Louis, you go to Chicago, you go to cities we know of that's safe. And I was like, I want to move to New York. And against all of his wills. My parents watched Law & Order. They like, you gonna get killed, don't go to New York, it's dangerous, don't get on the subway, all this. I'm like, I'm going to New York.
Is that every Memphis
Yes.
that we all heard the same?
Yes. My dad begged me not to. He begged me not to come to New York. He told me about all the rats and the mouse and everything.
They have people praying for me. All of that.
Yeah,
we know.
So after school, I applied for every job there was, and there's just no response, and I didn't get the job. So I was hustling and asking people. I just did not know what to do. And I met a girl. She worked at Def Jam. And she worked in public relations. I was like, please, can you hire me? She was like, we're not hiring, but you can come be my intern. And I was like, great. So me going back to tell my parents, I'm moving to New York with no job. And I'm going to intern at a record label. My dad was like, okay, now you really crazy. Like, you don't have, my parents are always thinking, in hindsight, they just want the best for you. My dad was like, how are you going to live? My dad, you don't have no insurance. You don't have a business card. You just, what a grown interning at Def Jam. And I was like, but I recognized the opportunity. I was like, I have to start someplace. And everybody was like, I would never move to New York. Like, you don't have any like income. What are you going to do? So I really had a Kanye West experience. I packed my car, sent the car back to Memphis. I got a U-Haul truck. Packed all my boxes and crates of my college life in D.C. and I drove the U-Haul truck by myself from Washington, D.C. to New York City, found a storage unit. I had a girlfriend who lived here. I crashed on her couch, and I started interning at Def Jam. So getting coffee, everything that an intern does, getting coffee, making phone calls, copy, whatever it is that an intern did, I was just so happy to be in the building. Like, I was there early. Like, and those days, the record labels, you work very late at night. So I would be there early in the morning. I would stay late at night. I walked one day in the rain to go get cupcakes for LL Cool J. I didn't care. Like, my shoe heel was breaking on the street. Like, I did not care. I was just happy for the experience and that they asked me to do it. So after my time at Def Jam interning, I got a job working for Neo. He had just got signed to Def Jam, so I was his first assistant. And I was the only assistant at the company. He literally got signed like on a Monday. They hired me like Monday night at 8 p.m. So I was the first assistant. I was learning how to do invoices. I was learning how to work with an artist and what that meant to move with an artist. And I was going to buy him hats, and I was going to the jeweler to pick up jewelry. I was sending invoices. Didn't even know what an invoice was, but I was the only person in the company at that time. And again, just happy to be in the building. Interface my dad. You'll hear my dad a lot in the story. My dad. How you don't have no business card? You ain't got no insurance. You don't have no insurance. They paying you cash. Like, he just was not here for any of it. Yeah, my dad was like, he didn't believe it unless you had a business card. He's so old school. So I got a job. I started looking for a job. I started listening to my dad, like, maybe I should have something that's more stable. From there, I was working at Sony Records, and I worked at Sony and copyright and publishing. So for everybody out there who wants to be in the music industry, there's so many things you can do in music. So you see, I was an intern. I was an assistant for a new artist. No one knew who Neo was at that time. And then at Sony, I was working in copyright. So this is the business side of music. So you just can't get on a record and start singing. Like, there's so many red tapes and paperwork that you need to go through in order to get an album that you hear on the radio. So I was working there during the day, and at night I would volunteer all over town, different entertainment PR agencies. I would volunteer at Violator Management, which was a very popular music management company at that time. So I would go to Violator and I would just do whatever they needed me to do. So I would help them get Missy's tour together, or if Busta was working on something and they needed something brought to the studio, I would do that. If it was about to be a press junket for whoever the artist was, like, I was just there, like, hungry, like, whatever y'all need me to do, like, please, I just trying to get my foot in the door. So at that time, Violator, they actually were managing Puff at the time, Chris Lighty. So I actually interviewed to be Mona's assistant, Mona Scott. Mona was not into it. I didn't get the job from Mona. I was like, I'm still here to help. Like, so I still came every day, like, whatever they wanted me to do. And the girls at Violator, who were like the higher ups, and Chris Lighty, who has passed away, they were like, we don't know what you can do here, but Puff's office is actually looking for an assistant. I was like, this is the thing I have dreamed about my whole life. Like, this is the job. This is the moment. Didn't get the job at first. They was like, no. Then they brought me back, and I interviewed to be the assistant to the president at Bad Boy, who was Harv Pierre. This is an important lesson too. When they initially called me, it was to be Harv's assistant, but they were like, no, she needs to meet with Mr. Combs. So I always tell people, take the meeting.
Yes.
So this is a gem that I'm dropping to you guys. You never know what's going to lead from just like taking the meeting. Because I could have been like, I really want to work for Puff, but I took the meeting. Then I didn't even work for Mr. Combs at first. I was actually the assistant to the chief of staff. And she was amazing. Her name is Dia Sims. You guys should look at her. So, Dia is amazing. She's definitely a pit bull in a skirt. And a lot of her is in me. People give me like rave reviews of how I work. I'm like, I'm a little Dia, if you really want to know. So, I interviewed, and I was Dia's assistant and the chief of staff's office. Dia was the first person in, and she was the last person to leave. So in those days, we would be at work at Bad Boy to maybe 3-4 in the morning. And if Dia left at 4, I left at 4:15. Like, I never wanted to leave before my boss. And then the opportunity came to be Mr. Combs' assistant, and I actually had to step to him and have a conversation. He had an assistant and she had left. And I noticed that he needed help. Like, there was no one there to kind of like help with his schedule. And I was doing it. I was just inheriting the work. And he was in his office and I was so scared. And I walked in there and I was like, "Hi, Mr. Combs. I don't know if you know me or recognize me, but I'm Dia's assistant." Because then you just didn't walk up in his office like, "Yo, what up, Puff?" Like, it wasn't any of that at all. Like, it really was run like a executive office. We had a chief of staff. We had a CMO. Like, there was levels to this. You just didn't walk up in like Mr. Combs' office. Like, you couldn't even get to the floor. The sixth floor. Shout out to the sixth floor. If you guys ever see like on Instagram and social media, you hear people say like, "Oh, the sixth floor," like that was like holy grail if you were on the sixth floor, and that's where I worked. So I went to Mr. Combs. I was like, "I noticed that you are needing an assistant. I just want to let you know, like, I'm here to help you." He was like, "Okay, cool." Turn around, and he left. I was like, my face was on the ground. Like, what did I do? I failed. Oh my God. And then I got an email the next day, like, "I need a jet from here to there." And from there, that's pretty much how I started working for him. So I never even like officially like transitioned. He just kind of stole me. And I think Dia was like, "Did he really just steal my assistant? Like, did this really happen?" But he's the boss. He can do what he wants. So I worked at Bad Boy. I was Mr. Combs' senior executive assistant. So to all you guys out there, there's levels to even being an assistant. You can be a personal assistant. You can be an administrative assistant. So an executive assistant, especially like a senior executive assistant, you pretty much are the nucleus to the chairman's world. So any move that he makes, anything that needs to be scheduled, it would have to go through me. So it was my job to interface with all the internal business partners, all the external business partners, all the flights, any moving around. Like, there was not a step that Mr. Combs was going to make without me having to facilitate it. And it's so funny. I love researching jobs for like higher ups. And I realized that I was doing a job of 1 million people because President Obama, he has a scheduler. He has someone who does the travel. You have an assistant that does social. You have an assistant that does... I was like, oh, I was doing all of this for this one man, and he is the notoriously known as the hardest working man in show business. Yes. So that was my job. I loved it. It was amazing. All the crazy things that you can think of that happens with working with someone like Mr. Combs, it was my job to get it done for him. But working there, it also is... They say if you work at Bad Boy for like 1 year, it's like 1,000 dog years because you just work. It's just you work so long. So I was his assistant for 6 years, and it was an amazing experience. Yeah,
6,000 dog years.
Yeah, 6,000 dog years. And shout out to me. Puff has said a few times like Karleen is one of the best assistants that I ever had.
And that coming from him, that's
right.
Yeah.
Let me just say this because y'all can't see it. Her skin is tight and fresh. She don't look tired. Those dog years are not showing up. She is just as radiant as she was at Howard.
I got some tricks for that too. So we can talk about beauty secrets when you're on the go and
beautiful.
Thank you. When you're having to roll with the boys, I learned how to get dressed very quickly because I was always usually the only girl. So the boys get dressed. We on a jet, they change and go. I'm like, wait, I need to. So I learned how to like get dressed very quickly. I can do my makeup in the car moving down the street, like Spanx, everything. Like I can do everything like in the back of a car. So as I was working there, I realized that I did my job really well. But I was like, what's next? I don't know if I wanted to like stay working at Bad Boy. I was just like kind of like in limbo to myself. Like, do I just want to be a lifelong assistant? And I knew I didn't want to do that. And I would look at some women who worked in the music industry, and no disrespect, but I felt like that's all they had. It was like, oh, I'm so-and-so from MTV. I'm so-and-so from BET. I'm like, okay, that's what you work, but that's not like who you are, But I felt like I saw people who worked at certain companies for so long, and it's just like that defined them.
Right.
And I thought that was whack. I'm like, who wants to be that? Like, I look at some people's Instagram bio, and it says like, so-and-so at MTV. It's like, who are you? Like, that's where you work. If MTV was to burn to the ground right now, like, who are you?
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So I was looking at women who worked in the business, and I knew early on, I was like, okay, I don't want to be that girl. And I was like, I don't want to be an assistant forever because I was dying. Like, you physically, like, it is the hardest job in the world. I would tell anybody, if you have the opportunity, you absolutely should be an assistant. I think it's the greatest job because you learn so much. And if you're smart, you'll sponge everything if you have a great boss. So
let me ask you real quick. What was the most challenging thing you had to do at that job?
Oh my God. The most challenging thing that I had to do at Bad Boy. Keeping up. Mm-hmm. Keeping up. Mr. Combs has 5 million jobs. Licensees, 6 children, a mother, 100 gazillion employees. I need to schedule. I have to meet with the Prime Minister of X, Y, and Z. I'm going to see President Obama. I had to do everything. So it really was keeping up and just having like endurance. I saw so many assistants under me at the business. They would come, they would work for a week, and they would be fired or they would quit the next day because they honestly could not keep up with it. I never slept. If we were not together, like if Mr. Combs was in LA and I was in New York, I still had to be like on his time zone, and he doesn't sleep, and maybe he'll sleep during the day if he has time. So anytime he was up, I would have to be up. So it really was just keeping up. He really
doesn't sleep.
He does not sleep.
Are you serious?
He does not sleep.
Like ever.
He doesn't sleep.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome.
And his days are kind of shifted. So when the rest of the world is asleep, he's up. He's in the studio. He wants to roll calls. He wants to speak to so-and-so. I need to see Andre Leon Talley. Send him a car. I need to get him to the studio. So when he's up, what I'm going to be like, I'm sleep, yo. Holler at me tomorrow. You know, like, so you have to move on his wavelength. So I think my biggest challenge was just keeping up all those years.
What were some of the things you did to keep up, like physically? How'd you? Were you coffee? Were you?
We had a Red Bull. Shout out to Red Bull. We had a Red Bull refrigerator in Puff's office, and all the assistants and all the poor interns, we would just go in there and drink all of them. Then I saw Puff one day drink a Rockstar Energy, and we was like, this is the best thing of life, because you really did like stay up all day like a rock star. So it was that. I would try to work out, but I tell you, during that time, I just had no time to do
because he was
anything.
Working out, you know, how are you gonna?
No, we would have to send emails like, in yoga for an hour if you need me. Like, you always had to alert the team when you were unavailable. Like, going to yoga, I couldn't be in, like, Bikram yoga, like, booking a jet, you know? So you had to let people know. So there was never no, like, I'm off the grid. Like, everybody's security, like, working out for an hour. Like, you had to let the team know what you were doing because things were moving so quickly. But I loved it. But, yeah, I was getting older. I was, like, reaching 30, and I was like, I cannot do this forever.
But doing that long, not sleeping.
Yeah, not sleeping
right. For 6 years.
Yes.
For real though.
Yes.
I love you.
No.
She goes, so girlfriend, she goes, I was getting older. I was approaching 30. You got me and Brandon hanging on to the last leg of 30. Like, really? But I understand it though. When you're not sleeping, you do feel like, I'm getting old.
Like,
it's
impossible. So I do want to go to something because we talked about like things not being impossible.
Yes.
And I can only imagine that working for someone like Sean Combs, that like nothing is impossible.
Yeah. There's no such thing as no. There's no such thing as you can't get it done. And you guys have to realize, like, Puff is an OG. So you see people now on Instagram, they're on jets and they're all these places. Like, he really was the first to do it at a very young age. So he's seen and gone through it all. So you can't tell him something doesn't exist. He's like, yeah, I did it. That does exist. I've got it done. And he was an assistant. He was the stylist to Jodeci and Mary J. He was A&R. So he himself was an assistant at one point. So he had the mindset that you can just get it done. So there was never coming to him saying like, no, I can't. You would have to exhaust every possible resource, everything that you could before you came to him and said like, I can't get it done. And he's such a sharp boss because if you did, I probably did it once or twice and completely played myself. Like, I can't get this done. And he would be like, here's where you went wrong. You should have did X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3. And I'd be like, he's right. So he always had an answer, and he would push and encourage us. And we always wanted to impress him, you know, so we always want to be like, oh, he wants us to build a pyramid in the middle of Times Square. I'm going to do that tonight. You know, like, we were excited to get the impossible done for him. And that's just the way he moved. He was a rock star, and he didn't take no for an answer. So that mindset 100% has, I've embodied that, and that's a big part of my business now. Like, we get the impossible done for our clients every day.
So how'd you take that leap? You said, I'm
getting old.
Let me tell you,
7,000 dog years in, y'all.
7,000. I thought I was getting old to be an assistant.
Okay. Yeah.
Because so you work for someone like that, people usually get like a year or so in, and then they like jump on to do other things. I'm like, okay, I've been doing this a while. What am I going to do next? And I knew that at that point, I'm like, you don't work for someone like Puff and then just go on to do some arbitrary, like, corny desk job. Like, you just don't do that. Like, you have all the opportunities and resources at your fingertips. Like, you have to, capitalize off the opportunities and the network that you have. So at that time, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do my own business. I didn't know if that was a concierge company for celebrities. I didn't know. I just knew that I was good at my job and getting things done very quickly for high profile, high net worth people who had, extreme demands. So I actually remember, like, I resigned. It took me like a month to resign. I was so afraid, like, shaking in my boots. But he was like, you can leave if you find me a replacement. So I never found a replacement. I actually, usually give your boss 2 weeks notice. I think I gave Puff 8 months notice because it's just so much. It's almost like transitioning to president. What they're going through now. You transition, you have to transition. It's a lot of information. So I've said, I'm going to do my own company. I remember he's saying, what are you going to do? I said, I don't have it figured out, but I will figure it out one day. And I worked and I took time off. And during that time, I was interviewing for jobs because I didn't really know if I was, you kind of are scared, do I really want to start my own business? So I had one foot in, and I would be interviewing for jobs, and they were whack. And
I love that. And it was whack.
No, they were whack.
It was whack.
They were whack. Or people didn't. I was also offended a lot of times because people didn't value my skill set or my job. So to some people, it's like, oh, you're an assistant for an artist. You probably go get coffee. So it's like they had no idea. They were small-minded. A lot of times people who did not look like us, but they just thought it was some very frivolous job. So I found myself very frustrated, trying to prove to myself, I'm good. I don't know what you're talking about. I can do X, Y, and Z. The Memphis of me about to come out. What? I can do your job, my job, everybody's job. Kanye West. I can do whatever. You don't know me. So I found myself very frustrated and trying to prove myself to people. I can do this. And then a lot of people was like, can you come be my assistant? Other artists. I'm like, you don't go work for Puff and then go work for you don't do that. So during that time, the phone just started ringing. It would be another celebrity oh, I'm stuck in Mexico and I need to get to MTV tomorrow. So and so told me to call you because you can get it done. Then it'll be oh, we want to do a red carpet party. Okay, when? Tomorrow. So-and-so told me you could get it done. Or I need 50 white Bentleys and 72 white Doves down the street. So-and-so told me to call you. Wow. And at that time, I would be doing this job and getting paid. And I was like, wait a minute, this is a job.
Yeah.
So that is really how the Vanity Group was birthed, just by people just knowing what I did and respecting me and knowing that I had a name out there. And at that time, I was like, okay, playtime is over. This is happening. And then I started getting my ducks in a row, meeting with attorneys, meeting with other business owners, meeting with accountants, trying to figure out, okay, if this is a business, how do I put it together? So that's how we got there.
I love it.
I love it. I will tell you, so many amazing stories have been left out of this, but we cannot leave them out for our
let's
girlfriends.
do it.
So, inquiring minds want to know.
Yes.
I want to know the craziest thing you ever had to do for Puff.
Okay.
And then Vanity Group. What is something somebody called you for that you were just like, what?
The craziest thing I had to do for Puff. I should know these stories off the top of my head. The craziest
because they're not crazy to you anymore.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah, that's the problem.
And it was so many. There are so many.
Vanity Group.
Okay, the craziest thing for the Vanity Group. Most recently, I would say Justin Bieber's birthday in 24 hours. They called me on a Friday. Justin wants to have a birthday party. We didn't know what was going on. 5 minutes later, a car was sent for me, and I was flown to LA. And the next day, we had this amazing bash in LA, and he was like, "This is the best." It was actually like his first real event that he has had. So that was crazy.
What?
Wow.
When was this?
This was this year, the day before the Oscars. So we had everything against us. It was the Oscars, so every event vendor was like, "No, it's with Gwyneth Paltrow," or "We're doing the Weinstein party," or like everything that was against us was against us. We found a beautiful house. I think like J-Lo was moving into the house the next day. They were like, "You cannot tear this house up." I'm like, "Oh my God, this is a 22-year-old's party. This house is going to be a wreck," but the house was left immaculate. Shout out to my team. We had an army there, like ready to like clean and go.
Yeah.
So I would think most recently that was the craziest thing, because we really had, it was in 24 hours, and it was a full out red carpet event.
Invites and all.
Invitation, red carpet, step and repeat, chefs, the chef
crazy.
from Nobu, liquor sponsor, like everything that you would think a full event takes like months.
Yes.
We did it like in less than 24 hours.
You know what I thought you were going to tell me?
What?
The story about the circus. Wasn't it Trey Songz?
Oh, the circus. See, it's so many. For Trey's 30th birthday, we actually built a circus, like from the ground up in the middle of Malibu. Elephants, giraffes, rod, hang glides, whatever it was, like a straight up circus.
And how much time did you have to plan it?
We had a little bit of time for that, but the gotcha was the night before. Everything that they didn't want, he's like, "Okay, now get the elephants back. I need the camels. I need this." And the event was like the next morning. So we need to get the fire lady back, the lady with the snake. I'm like, the lady that I canceled, get the snake back. All right, cool. So yeah, that was pretty rock star too.
I love it.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
It.
And the hardest thing with Mr. Combs, there were so many. I definitely feel like one time we went to LA and he was like, "Can you find me a house tomorrow?" We was like it happened that quick. Like we went for him
A house to buy?
a house to live in. It's like I'm not going back to New York. I'm just gonna stay. Like I want to get a house like tomorrow.
And at a certain standard.
Yeah, like
Obviously,
a certain
it's gotta be,
standard.
like,
Still gotta be fly
the dope
and
house
all of that.
and
So
private and
all of that. I remember calling the CMO like, "Derek, we need it." He's like, "What?" Like, but Derek's actually like the first bad boy employee, so he already knew what time it was. But yeah, I definitely feel like we landed. He's like, "I want a house." We're like, "Okay, cool. When tomorrow?" We was like, yeah. So you can see from that, and like it's just not. I'm not getting any old house. Like it needs to be a house. It needs to be an experience. We need to get the CMO involved, like the insurance broker. Like there's so many things that like security that needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that. So I really just got really good at just getting things done.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, what did you learn? Like, if you you see everyone else out in the world, you see everyone, who look at social media and want to be fabulous, like, and people who are in the world who just they're struggling. Mm-hmm. So, like, what is it that you think having that type of access to these kind of people? Like, what's the one thing you wish everyone knew?
I wish everyone knew that it was a business at the end of the day, and that we're not here to be friends with people or get too familiar or like kiki with them. Like at the end of the day, like this is a service that we are providing, and you still need to be like professional and buttoned up. You need to be like culturally aware of the environment and the industry you're in, but at the end of the day, you're there to work. And I think a lot of young people, especially on social media, they see people who are like hanging with artists or celebrities and they think that they're there to hang out. It's like, no, you're there to work. So it's like there are so many days where I've been around the world a few times, beautiful jets, beautiful yachts, all the best of the best, and people like, you have photos. I'm like, I was so busy working, I didn't have time for a photo anything. Or like you just don't have time because you're there to work. And I think that's the biggest misconception where people think about working with celebrities, that everybody is there like hanging out, and some people are there hanging out, but they're not the ones who are working. At the end of the day, I don't think those are the people that are gonna last in the business.
Any other like lessons that being around super successful people who are able to motivate a team, or even able to motivate someone like you to get it done, like anything that you took from them that you feel like this lesson right here is going to help me build my company.
100%. I now speak to working at Bad Boy. Mr. Combs has the tenacity of a giant. Like, it's funny, like, oh, I can't stop, won't stop, but he really does not stop. And I think you have to see it with your own two eyes modeled in front of you for you to really get it. There's so many times now in my business where, you know, like, I want to give up. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. I can't believe I'm doing this. But it's like, I've seen the best of the best modeled in front of me. So like the level of tenacity was like the biggest gem, I think, from working with someone like Mr. Combs. It's like, you know, very humble beginnings, and you see them like, okay, if they can do it and they are working all night and he has 5 million jobs, and if he can stay up all night and work and get things done and they're still pristine and beautiful and like to the higher standards, like, why can't I? You know, I think a lot of people fail or they give up just because they haven't seen it, you know, before. But it's like, I've seen it with my own two eyes. My father was a very successful entrepreneur, been in Black Enterprise magazine and all that, and then to work with someone like Puff, it's like, I've seen it with my own two eyes. I would be doing myself a disservice, and I feel like my whole career and time working there specifically would be in vain if I just didn't, you know, get something from it. I think it would be very remiss if you had the opportunity to work with an icon or somebody like that and you just like took it for granted. Like, you have to take something from it. So I definitely have like inherited, I think, like some of his traits, which I think are like, I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like, people would die to like work there for like even 5 minutes. And so like to see someone like up all night, like it was a thing with the assistants. We would hate to fly private with Puff because we didn't want him to see us sleeping. It's like, you got time to sleep? You know how much work we got to get done, and we was like, please, you know, how crazy that, please fly me commercial. I don't want to be on a private jet, you know, like, because it's like, you got time to relax. I got 5,000 businesses. Y'all got time to relax. Like, we always wanted him to see us like ready, on guard and ready. And could you imagine being on a flight and like sleeping and your boss there like, you got time to sleep? Like, I was like, please put me on the last commercial flight in the back. So I definitely took from him, and just working with people like him, just like, you gotta have tenacity if you want to make it in this business.
What about you? Like, what type of woman needs to show up every day to be able to do what you do in your world? What are some of the characteristics? Because let me just tell you, girlfriends, when Karleen walked in, all you could feel was just this confident assurance.
Yes.
Like, this woman knows who she is. She knows her space. She knows what she's doing. She has no questions. There's no question about Karleen. There's only assurance about Karleen, which we all need to have that. And I have so much respect for it. And I think so many women need to know, you own it. Like, top to bottom, you own it. You own it. You own it. It's fantastic. So what type of woman needs to show up every day and kick butt like you do?
You have to be confident. I cannot be around people who are meek. Like, people who are meek, like, drive me, like, insane. Like, you have to be confident, and you have to be sure of yourself. Like, stand up straight, put your shoulders back, like, be about business, you know? Like, so definitely, like, confidence and people who are sure of themselves. I think it's the biggest thing. There's so many times you can get, like, shaken or, you know, like, and it drives me insane. And if anything, you have to think in your head that, like, you are a rock star too. Like, you're just as popping, you're just as hot. Like, it's all about like the confidence that you have like in yourself. Like, I'm not looking for someone that's like the mirror of me, but I'm looking for someone that we are complementary and we like share the same energy. I love people who have a great spirit, people who have big spirits. I can taste or feel bad energy like a mile away. You can have the best credentials in the world, but if your energy feels very like weird, it's like I'm completely off of it. But yeah, you have to be confident. You have to be sure of yourself. You have to have a plan. The girls who work for me, like, I always like give them tasks, and I always ask them like, what's your plan? I always want to know, like, so what's your plan? What's your strategy? Like, question. You know, we're a small company, so a lot of times you may be the assistant, but you're getting like a big task to do. Like, I'm like, okay, what's your plan? If you feeling mad, hesitant, or nervous, I'm like, yo, go back to the drawing board and let me know like what your plan is. And I think that's a big thing for a boss to like relinquish certain things to like the people that they work with, and it's like, this is your time to like show and prove. move. So yeah, definitely I'm all about like having like a plan and a strategy.
Yeah.
For everything.
I love it.
For everything.
How important are your great girlfriends to you being able to be and exist as Karleen?
My great girlfriends, they know I'm crazy. I'm on so many like group chats with my girlfriends and my line sisters, and they always know that I've like been this way and it's crazy. And I love them because they appreciate me the way I am. Like they don't try to change me. Like they know like if Karleen involved, she about to make it a movie. We about to be jumping out of helicopters, like, and they are with it. So like it's a good balance. I have some very amazing girlfriends who are doctors and attorneys and they work at NIH. They about to cure cancer. Like I got some fly, amazing girlfriends who are about substance and have like great credentials. So they definitely are my village. I have close girlfriends here. Kalana Barfield, she's the editor at InStyle. She's my great girlfriend. We strategize together all the time. Like, okay, this is our next move. We about to do this. So it's great to have people in your life who are like-minded, like you, and share your vision, and they get it. And we may be in different industries, but that's not to say that we can't help push each other or help each other like strategize or how do you feel about this look? Do you think it's like whack or would you, yes, we're doing that. So, you know, or help you figure things out when you are in a jam. So though I don't have like a lot of friends, I have the right friends around me. And I think that is what matters. I'm very protective of my time and my space. Sometimes people just want to be your friend.
Yes, we all should be girlfriends.
Like, sometimes people just want your energy. Me and my girlfriends, we call them body snatchers. Like you just want to be want to be part of the movement or the and it's like it's not feeling genuine. It's like I don't need those people around me, and I don't need people around me that I have to second guess. As my business has started to like take off somewhat, I definitely have dropped friends from my life that have to second guess their intentions or why they are in my life. So to any young person listening, like you're not always going to have the same people with you in your life, and that is okay. Like some people are in your life for a reason and a season, and you get what you can from that relationship and you move on to a different season. And like don't beat yourself up about relationships sometimes that don't last because they weren't meant to last.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh,
I love it.
My new little sister in my head.
I know. I told you.
I love it. It's so
I want to be on the show all the time. Can we do it once a month with the Vanity Group?
Yes, you are
censored.
welcome.
This is censored. Sybil told me this is censored.
Girl, you're welcome anytime. You have that soothing spirit. It's so cool. It's just good girlfriend time. We love it.
I love it.
What else do you want to share with our girlfriends? I'm enjoying you, Karleen.
What do we want to share? What do we want to talk
Anything
about?
You want them, let me ask you about dating.
Okay.
And living this speed life.
Okay.
How do you balance your desire to want to date and build a career at the same time?
I saw this. It's so funny. There's this old clip. I'm single, by the way. There's this old clip of Etta. Is it Etta James? Eartha Kitt, and they're asking her about compromise. Have y'all seen it?
No.
And she's like, compromise, and she like busts out laughing, and she's like, why do I have to like compromise like who I am to like be with a man? And I'm like, that is the illest thing I ever heard because when I speak to older women, like in my family, and they see what I'm doing, I'm like, oh, you're moving around and you're fabulous. Karleen, you're going to have to compromise, girl. If you want a man, it's like, why? Kanye West in my mind again. Like, why do I have to compromise, who I am, like, to be with, like, a man? I would hope that God delivers a man in my life who is complimentary of me, and I don't have to shrink who I am.
And accepts all this fabulous.
Yeah, like, he should be like, yo, I should be his Beyonce, like, yo, this is the best thing that ever happened to me. And I don't think that you should have to shrink who you are, like, as a woman to, like, make a man feel okay. If I have to shrink who I am, I don't want to be with that sucker dude. No way. Like, I'm not into that. I think dating in New York is tough because I think it's so many brilliant people. Everybody's beautiful, but everybody's on top of everything. So I don't have a problem balancing work and personal life because I am the boss. That's the best thing about when you work for yourself. When I want to do something, I do it. When I don't, I don't. If I want to take off the day and go get my nails done, I can do that. So it's not that. It really is just meeting people that like share my same energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which we hear a lot of from a lot of girlfriends that have that same scenario where they have such high esteem, which they can measure up to. Yeah. But they don't meet guys of a similar caliber. Mm-hmm. So they find themselves like, well, I'd rather just really rock my life. Yeah. than to have to compromise any of myself, and you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious.
I don't know. Maybe I have it wrong. Y'all tell me. Can y'all chime in? Let me know. But I just don't think that you should have to.
No calling
like, can you call in 1-800 is great girlfriend.
Great girlfriend.
Right. So I don't think that you should have to compromise who you are.
That as a show.
Oh my God.
Right now.
Yes. On the hotline. On the hotline. So I don't think you should compromise, but I think dating is great. You have to kiss a lot of frogs, as they say, and that's cool. And another thing, girls, if you're dating someone and it doesn't work out, guess what? That's why you date them.
That's why.
To figure out if you work and if it's not, and if it don't work, then you move on.
It's not a wedding.
And just because it's a date, it's not a wedding.
It's not a wedding.
Okay,
it's not a wedding.
Now I'm getting all frustrated because I have been around so many women who are treating. I'm like, you should go out with him, and they're like, no, he's not this. I was like, first of all, you don't even know him.
You don't even know him.
Hey, that's for one.
Yeah.
And for two, you're not going to get married. I didn't tell you to go ring shopping with this man.
It's a date.
I said go to dinner.
Can you have a date?
Yeah, it's a date. That's it.
A date.
All the way down the aisle.
Yeah, you have to date to figure out if you're compatible with somebody, and I take that same concept in work too. I learned this from Susan Posen, Zach Posen's mother, the designer. You have to date your employees. And when you marry them is when you hire them. Like, go out to dinner with someone. She says she never hires anyone unless she's gone to dinner with them first. Like, date, try them out. Do you guys do a trial, figure out if it works for you? Like, you don't have to jump into things so quickly. I always heard to be slow to hire, quick to fire.
Yeah.
So take your time, getting to know people in your life, and I adopt that in my business life too.
I love it.
Aww.
Thank you. She's such a gem.
I love it.
Brandis, you were right.
I love this. I want to be a great girlfriend all the time.
You are.
Okay. Whenever you're around, see us, girl. Because you might be grabbing monkeys from Brazil in the morning.
I may be. I'm looking at my text now, like, what is happening now? Who's dying now?
Okay, so how can our great girlfriends keep up with you? If they just want to experience a day in the life on social, where can they find you?
They can find me at Vanity Group NYC on Instagram. That's Vanity Group NYC. Or if you type in my name, Karleen, Karleen, my name should pop up. I have a website, thevanitygroup.com. We're on Twitter. But on Instagram, I really much just chronicle what I'm doing. I don't show every move that I make, but I like to just show people a glimpse of what we're doing. So it's pretty fun. I love Instagram.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
Are you on Snapchat?
I am.
Are you obsessed?
I'm obsessed. Actually, Rick Ross set me up on Snapchat. He's like, this is the wave. You need to get on. I'm like, I don't know. I'm secretly an 80-year-old black woman. When it comes to technology, I don't know how to use my phone. My little cousin hooked me up on Instagram. So I was afraid to try it. But you know what? You have to keep up with the wave. It's get on board or get left. One of my business mentors told me you can't run a Blockbuster business in a Netflix world.
You cannot. That is so good.
So you have to keep up with the time. So shout out to Rick Ross for setting me up on Snapchat. He actually took my Snapchat picture for me. We got to get this right. I love Snapchat. My Snapchat name is Karleen Roy. So you get to see me when I go home to Memphis when my mom doesn't care how fly I think I am. She got me cleaning the kitchen. All the things I don't want to do, laying on the couch. You get to see behind the scenes of work, what I'm doing, all the hiccups along the way, which is always fun. So it
feels like a reality show.
It really
Everyone
does.
says that.
It really does.
Everyone
Maybe
says that.
coming.
Maybe it's coming. Any
feels
producers
like a
out there
reality
listening,
show.
get at me. info@thevanitygroup.com.
Right.
Love it.
Right.
Well, this is where we close out, Karleen. So you get to do this with us. We thank our husbands. Kwaku, I love you.
Yes. And Rich, I love you so much, babe.
Oh
yes.
my God.
And then we thank our kids. So my Sam and Dylan. I love you guys.
And little Miss Sky.
Oh my God.
And then we thank our whole family.
Yes, girl. We
Oh my
thank
God.
the nieces,
Because they're
the
all
nephews,
listening.
the sisters,
wow.
the brothers.
Dad. So you
Anybody listening from Memphis? I mean, this is so cool. I don't know who to shout out. I don't know. It's exciting.
Mama
You gonna get in
and
trouble.
Yeah, everybody in Memphis, anybody from Howard, anybody that's AKA anybody from Harlem, anybody this is amazing.
Yay!
Yes, I love this.
And thank you, girlfriends, for trusting us as your go-to source for everything life, love, and laughter. Make sure you listen every week on iTunes, Stitcher, Blueberry, Podcast Republic, Podcast Bean, and every other podcasting service that's out there.
Yeah, and you can check us out on social. You can check our Instagram, which is
The Great Girlfriends,
our Twitter,
_Great GFS,
Facebook.
The Great Girlfriends.
And if you're not already, please make sure that you're in our Facebook group. We're at 13,500 now.
Wow.
And our goal is 15,000. So
Wow.
Great Girlfriends, make sure you're inviting your friends to the Facebook group.
Wow, I'm on the Facebook group.
Yay!
Awesome. So make sure you post your questions each week. You share with your friends.
Keep listening and keep being a
great
great girlfriend!
Wait, I have one shout out. I want to shout out to my line sister Nasanga. She's actually the one who first told me about Great Girlfriends, and she said, "I love this podcast. You actually should be on it." So, hindsight, I'm here. Thank you, Nasanga, for letting me know about this amazing movement.
Yay! Hey, Nasanga!
I think she lives in like Israel or someplace now. Like she doesn't even live like in the United States anymore.
Oh, wow! Shout out, Nasanga.
Y'all are international.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Sybil.
And I'm Brandis.
And I'm Karleen.
And we're signing off.
Bye, great girlfriends. We love you.
Bye.